What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the channel where I track race my 2009 Corvette Z06 and the occasional work on my tow pig, my 2017 Chevy Silverado. Now, for those who have been following me, we are finally at D-Day next weekend on Saturday. If you're watching this, it'll be October 25th. We're putting this car out with Farah Racing Group, and we're going to do some HPDE driving on this thing at Homestead Speedway. Essentially shake this car down after the engine rebuild and just kind of see that hopefully we put this thing together correctly. But in the interim, while I'm prepping for the car and getting it ready, I figured it'd be a good time to do a quick little sit down, because in my time with my amateur track racing and being involved with a lot of different skill levels from people that have been doing this for years, and also being introduced to a lot of beginners kind of getting into this in very common questions they ask, I figured, why not make a video of the top 5 things you need to do to prepare for your first track day. The very first one has absolutely nothing to do with your car or with your tools or with your tires or your horsepower. It actually has to do with mindset. I think the biggest thing for anyone on their very first track day to realize is you are not going out there to set track records, lap records on your very first time. You want to go out there, you want to get used to the vehicle, how it brakes, how it accelerates, how it responds to certain conditions, and how to drive and play nicely with other drivers while on the racetrack. The next thing you want to focus on is that it is HPDE, high performance driving education. It's not racing, right? Yes, you can put a lap timer in your car and you can work on improving your skill set so you can eventually get into a time attack or time trials or those types of racing. But HPDE, you are not racing the other drivers on track. I promise you, the other guys on track, for the most part, are not paying attention to you and your hot dog and wanting to be abilities. You're going out there to have a good and safe time. And, obviously, like I said, on my very first track day, I had a lap timer from Garmin Catalyst installed here, so I can start logging that. But I knew from the start that I wasn't going out there and racing anyone else that was out on the track. Everyone else is on their own terms. So boys, those that pass someone on the straight or they dive in on someone on the corner and then they want to tell their boys that they beat that other person or that other car, better said, is false. You are out there on your own within your group, but everyone is driving their own line. Everyone's driving for their own time. No one is racing another. It's not wheel-to-wheel racing. So make sure you keep that in mind. And be respectful. Come humble. Come willing to learn. Come willing to listen. Because you will find that the track community is a little bit smaller than the drag race community and obviously the street takeover idiots. You're going to find that these guys are all very helpful. They're all very willing to share their wisdom. Be willing to receive that. You're going to be humbled very quickly if you think because you've done a couple 60 to 130 pools, or you've maybe done a couple hooning events, or maybe, done a couple things in the parking lot that you probably shouldn't, tell your parents about. You're gonna be humbled really quick when you're out on that racetrack. So come ready to receive, come ready to respect the other drivers. It doesn't matter if you have a Corvette or if you have a Miata. Everyone's out there to have a good time, and most importantly, everyone's out there to be safe. Now on to the question I get the most, which is essential number 2, or thing you should know number 2 for your first track day, is what exactly to prep on your car and what does my car technically need to go out on the track. Now, another common question that I get, or phrase or joke that I get, is the type of car that you could take out to an event. You essentially can take any type of vehicle to the event as long as it has the proper safety equipment. So meaning, seats, seat belts, those sorts of things, proper brakes, proper tires. You can basically take any of your vehicles out there. Don't be discouraged because you don't have a Corvette or you don't have a Supra. If you have a Miata, if you have an Elantra, if you have a SUV, you can definitely go out there and get seat time again if it has the right safety equipment. But now on to the point number 2, which is what do you need to do to prep your car to be out there? And what do you want to make sure you do before you take your car out there and put yourself in danger or other drivers? The biggest thing is going to be your tires and brakes. You want to make sure that you do have still a good set of tires on your vehicle. If your vehicle is a daily driver, not like the Corvette, which is basically set up here for track use. If your vehicle is a daily driver, you want to make sure that those tires still have plenty of tread left so that you can go out on track safely. You also want to make sure that your pad life is still good, especially if you're daily driving the vehicle. But even if you're not, the vehicle's sitting, just make sure you take a look at both of those. If your vehicle sits for a long time, you want to check the age of the tire, make sure that it's not rotted or anything like that. But more than likely, in most cases, it's not going to be the situation, but you do want to make sure you still have quality tread and you still have quality brakes. You want to do the typical maintenance things. Change your oil. You want to go out there with a fresh set of oil. This car's oil is about 100 and something miles old, and actually as soon as it comes off track, it will get a new oil change after that. You don't necessarily have to change your oil as often as I do, but you know, if you're going to be putting a hurting on the motor out there 20-30 minutes at a time, and you're going to be doing track racing frequently, then maybe reduce your oil interval changes to maybe 1,500 miles, something like that. You want to check after you've done your, you got good oil in it, your tires are good, your brakes are good, then just go through the other inspection items, which making sure that you still have enough brake fluid. Take the top off, look at the brake fluid quality. If it's dark black or something like that, then it might be time to change your brake fluid before you go out there. Your brake fluid will actually more than likely fail before your actual pads do. And that's just because if the brake fluid is old and breaking down, its boiling point resistance fails, and essentially you get what's called brake fade, where your pedal stops to respond, and obviously that could be a recipe for disaster on track. So check your brake fluids. If you have a manual transmission vehicle, check your clutch fluid. Obviously, check the transmission fluid and all that. You want to make sure that the car has, at minimum, all the adequate amounts to successfully drive on track and not hurt itself. Keep in mind, each session is anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes. Even if you're doing 60 to 130 pulls, you're doing those for 5-10 seconds. And then even if you're drag racing someone, it's 10 to 13 to 15 seconds. This is 20 minutes of hard throttle, hard braking. So what's gonna happen is engine temps are gonna be higher than normal. Oil temps are gonna be higher than normal. So you wanna make sure that if the fluids are very old, they're updated. For the most cases, you're just gonna wanna make sure that they're at the right levels, along with your tires and your brakes. And of course, if you've been messing with the interior and stuff, make sure you have proper safety equipment. So make sure you have a seat belt, your seat is secured, those sorts of things. You need to be firm in place while driving the vehicle. Other things I completely forgot to mention that are important with the safety check of the vehicle is your lug nuts. Obviously, we talked about the tires and the brakes. Make sure your lug nuts are at the proper torque specs. So anytime you're out on a race application, your torque specs probably in most cars is gonna be anywhere between 100 to 120 pounds. On that. So you want to kind of make sure that is. I typically will take a torque wrench to the track with me. And you also want to make sure, just like the seat being tight, make sure there's nothing loose in the vehicle. I'll show you an example where I left my camera loose and it was definitely a scary experience. I'll cut to it now. But you want to make sure there's nothing loose in the vehicle. So when, again, hard braking, hard turning, something flies, hits you, worst case, flies out, scares you, makes you make a mistake. So make sure everything is secured, make sure there's nothing in the vehicle that shouldn't be. Make sure your lug nuts are nice and torqued so you ain't got a wheel passing you up at 150 miles an hour. Now, for driving, for number 3, right? We know what we got to do to prepare ourselves mentally before we get to the track. We've inspected the car front to back. We are ready to go. Now, we need the car safe. Now we need to protect ourselves. You're going to need a Snell rated helmet. Do not show up to the track with a DOT or any sort of motorcycle helmet. It has to be Snell SA 2020 or now SA 2025. They renew every 10 years. So right now, if you buy an SA 2020, you can probably get a decent discount on it because it's starting to age out, and you still got a good solid 5 years of helmet before you have to replace it. But you want to make sure that you have the proper helmet. You can go full face helmet, you can go open face helmet, but it does have to have that Snell rating. And don't get caught up in needing an Arai helmet or a Sparco helmet or a Stilo helmet. You can do anything with a Race Quip, a G-Force. All of them have the same safety regulations. The difference is going to be aesthetics, what they weigh, and what they look like. So if you're trying to get out on track and you're balling on a budget, look at the G-Forces, look at the Race Quips, look at Zamp. All those guys are going to have the same Snell ratings. Their helmets are going to be a bit more affordable. You don't need these, but they are a benefit. those are gonna be driving shoes. Driving shoes are gonna have a flat platform on the bottom. They look really cool, but they're mainly designed to give you a better feel for the brake and gas pedal because of the way that the insole or the sole of the shoe is extremely flat and extremely thin. It allows you to get a better feel for the pedals because you are going to be treating how you brake and how you throttle much differently than you do out on the street or when you're driving spiritedly on the road. So the shoes do help. I did most of my track days in normal Nikes. I do have a pair of Sparkles now, but it was more of an aesthetic thing and my need to try to learn how to left foot brake. And I figured, get the right shoes and learn with all the proper equipment. The next thing you'll see some guys run is gloves. I do run gloves. That is, when I purchased the vehicle, I purchased gloves because the steering wheel in my car was extremely, obviously it's a 2009, the leather on it is a little bit older. It gets greasy and I wanted to just have a firm grip on the steering wheel. I now have an Alcantara steering wheel. It's a lot thicker, it's a lot grippier, but the gloves look absolutely sick. So I rock them every single time. And then of course, a fire suit if you feel that you want to run it. No, most of these events are not going to require a fire suit. They're not going to require gloves. They're only going to require a helmet. And there's plenty of guys that run without gloves. You can absolutely do that. And there's plenty of guys that run in normal sneakers. You can absolutely do that. Obviously no open toe shoes, no Crocs, no sandals, none of that jargon. And you're not required to have a fire suit, but safety first. If it's something that you want to run, go ahead, get yourself a safety suit. Do your research. There's plenty of different safety suit options or fire suits. And basically the more budget-friendly ones are going to be the thickest, heaviest. They're going to be very hot to wear. And then as you get a little bit more on the more expensive side, you are going to get a better experience with it. And they do have more and more fire protection in them. You are going to need a head sock with your helmet. You can get a head sock anywhere, any brand. It's basically just what it's called, a sock before you put your helmet on for the fire retardant. So make sure you get that. Wherever you buy your helmet, just add it to the cart. It's like another 20 to 100 bucks, depending on how classy you want to get with that as well. But those are essentially the safety gears that you need on you yourself as a person. Again, the helmet is the only thing required in an HPDE event. But myself, I have gloves, I have shoes. You can go the full shaboodle and have a full-blown suit on, or you can go in basically a helmet. I will tend to ride in pants just because I feel a little bit more comfortable in pants. When I'm out there, it's just a weird thing in my head to be in shorts. I don't know, but I've got buddies that go out there in their shorts as well and they drive. So that's completely up to you on how you dress apparel-wise, but dress comfortable because you will be in that car for a long time, and especially if you're tracking in the summer months, it gets hot. So we've covered the vehicle, we've covered the mindset, we've covered our clothing. One thing you don't want to miss out on is what to take to the track with you. Essentials to pack, which is number 4, right? When you go out there, you're there for an entire day, and if you opt for a 2-day, you're there 2 days back to back. So you want to make sure, again, that you are comfortable. You want to take yourself some sort of folding chair. I always take a cooler with water, energy drinks, maybe a pub sub, a couple little sandwiches. Some events will have food hosts there, but you can't rely on that. So definitely bring yourself some food so you have that. The track will usually go cold around lunch hour where no one's out on track and everyone kind of eats and stuff like that. So bring yourself snacks. Bring yourself a lunch if you want, but make sure you bring enough water to hydrate yourself. In my case, I love energy drinks, so I take a couple energy drinks for me and the boys, some chairs, and then obviously the tools that I use on the car, which I do take my torque wrench. You always want to have a air pressure gauge, and I do take a small air pump from my Obi handheld, because when I go out on track, when I get there, I'm gonna recheck the torque on my lug nuts, even though I just torqued them right now. I'm gonna recheck them again just to be sure. And then I'm gonna check the tire pressure. Cold tire pressure on my Goodyear Supercar 3Rs. Now they will vary between tires, so do your research on what tires you have or what tires you're gonna run. But on the Goodyear Supercar 3Rs and this setup that I have, I am more than likely gonna run between 25 to 26 pounds of pressure cold. So the goal is, with a cold tire pressure, once I get out on track and I warm them up, the tire pressure is gonna go back and increase. If it goes up, I want it to get to like 32, 33. I don't want it to get too high, because then what happens is, as the tire begins to inflate, my contact patch becomes smaller. So I wanna keep it as low as possible, and I wanna give myself as much time. So 26 to 25 pounds is what I will about start my day with. So the air pressure gauge allows me to check the pressure, reduce the pressure because they will be higher when I get there. And the same thing, same cadence before the next time I go out and the next time I go out. Usually after that, it's got a rhythm. It doesn't really have to be checked every time, but I always do. I'd rather be safe than sorry. I've had track sessions where my previous tires got them to like 37 PSI and I'm slipping and sliding all over the place. So you want to check your air pressure gauge. You could take extra tools if you feel like your car needs it. It's not required. I am a rather have than not. I trailer my vehicle to the track even though it's fully capable of going there on its own. I bring a jack with me and I bring a quick set of tools. For example, I went off on Sebring, cracked the radiator. Obviously with the radiator, it was kind of like a no-go at that point because the radiator was cracked. But initially it pulled the lip off and a couple things and I went into repair mode to get out for the next session. You do spend a lot of money to get out there, and the last thing you want to do is be stuck because you need to fix something and you need a couple wrenches and you don't have it. But that's completely up to you. I know plenty of guys that go with absolutely nothing and have the fondest time. I, again, built myself, and with my boys, we need to bring as many tools as possible because in our case, Murphy's Law, what can go wrong will go wrong, and I'd rather just be prepared. And then the last one, guys, number 5 is track day etiquette. Now, I have a Corvette Z06. I can go out there and be a complete asshole to everyone out on track that's slower than me, right? I can go, and we see it plenty of times with actually active track racers that buy these types of cars and ego race. Now, not saying I am not part of that pack, because I am humble enough to understand that this car is a whole lot of car for me. But when it comes to track day etiquette, guys, is make sure you're respectful to all the drivers. If there is a required drivers meeting for certain sessions, and if it's your first track day, please don't try to sign up for intermediate or advanced. Humble, start in beginner, go through the drivers meeting, talk to the driving coaches that are there. Actually enroll with a driving coach and have them ride along with you so that you can ramp up faster. But make sure that you show up to the drivers meeting. Make sure you learn the flags and that you're aware of them when they're out on track. There's plenty of flaggers, and they're going to be communicating to you if you're doing certain things that you shouldn't be doing, or if someone behind you or in front of you, a caution, a black flag, a faster car behind you flag. All those things need to be aware of. You don't want to be that guy if you're running a little slower and you know there's someone behind you and you don't give them the point by. Right? So when you're in the beginner and intermediate classes, you're not allowed to pass the other drivers, which goes back all the way to point 1, that you're not racing anyone. You're actually not allowed to pass other drivers without the driver in front of you to give you a point by, where they reach over their roof and they literally point you by. The driver at that point, the point by driver, is supposed to either maintain pace or back off pace so you can get around them. That's the only time you can pass, and it's usually only on straights depending on the event. If you are slowing down traffic, guys, just give the point by. Don't hold everybody up behind you. If you know someone's faster than you in a corner, yes, it can happen. You hold them back a corner or two, but then give them the point by as soon as you can. Let that driver get by. Everyone's paying to be out there and they all want to have a good time. You don't want anyone mad at you for that kind of situation. And the same as otherwise. Don't ignore point buys and go around the drivers when you're not supposed to. Don't sit there and try to race somebody after you point them by. Don't do those things. Be respectful to the other drivers. Like I said, show up to the drivers meeting, learn your flags, and just be respectful to everyone out there. Again, Corvette, Miata, it doesn't matter. We're all out there to do the same thing, which is improve our driving, but most importantly, have a good time safely. So if you're out there being a dick, I don't want to be out on track with you, and most guys will say the same. And if you have stayed all the way this long and looked at this angle for this long, I'm going to give one bonus tip, and it has actually nothing to do with racing. it's going to be content, because that's the next thing that I get a question on. I get often is, how do I create my video quality and stuff like that, and how do I produce it? So I use my Sony A7C Mark II, which is the camera that's recording me now, but I also use GoPros. I have usually a GoPro mounted on my helmet, which gives a POV, gives the other person that's watching the event a full access view of what my eyes see while I'm out on track. We also have the Garmin Catalyst, which has a built-in camera on my windshield. That is tracking my lap time, that is tracking my driving, and it's also recording it. That is essential, not always so much for the content side, but it is essential for improving your driving. I use a DJI Mic 2 for the audio. I usually have it somewhere out by the back. I don't run every track session with it on. We will be moving forward, but that's something that you can also consider. You don't need the Sony to do this. You don't need the DJI mic to do this. You can find other budget-friendly models. Pick up a camera, any camera you have. It could be the one that's most available to you, which is going to be your phone. Buy a mount for it, mount it on the windshield, mount it in the back glass, and create some content. Log this, record this, so you can go back 6, 8 months later, 2 years later, 10 years later, and see your improvement in driving, and log that, and see where you started and where you've gone from. So those are just some last little quick tips on there for that. If you do have more tips that you guys want me to kind of talk about or anything like that, drop a comment below. If you've watched this far, I appreciate you. Welcome to the channel if you're new, and like and subscribe. If you're already part of this channel, just like the video and share it. And I'll catch you guys in the track next weekend. Peace.